Good morning, everyone. I don't know how many of you have seen me on this stage before. I've been on this stage since I was in kindergarten. So as you can tell, I'm not afraid of being on stage. However, because I seem so confident on stage, most people assume that I'm a very social and outgoing person in real life as well. However, once I step down from this stage, this isn't the Mehek that you will see. And what do I mean by that? Well, I am a hardcore introvert. And an interesting fact is that once I had a classmate who had asked me, Mehek, how is it that you seem so comfortable on stage, yet you become nervous when going to social gatherings or talking with new people? And I replied, I don't know. In all reality, if any of you come down and talk to me after this, I'll probably go into an error 404 mode, like quite literally. Most of my life, I've been called stoic and serious, and I can't deny with that fact. The Mehek that my friends and classmates and family know is a very quiet person. I generally sit in a corner of the class. I'm either reading a book, maybe fidgeting around with my Rubik's Cube, and the list goes on. Now, why am I saying all of this to you? Well, the reality is that it wasn't easy for me to accept myself for who I am today. For a large part of my life, I've never felt like I fit in the crowd. Most of the times, I've never been interested in what teenagers these days do, and that has always made me feel left out in a certain way. However, I believe my introvertism and my personality as a student has never been a hindrance in my capabilities, my work as a student, and even your assistant head girl. Now, this isn't easy, obviously. I represent a few people who are okay with being different and not fitting into the puzzle. Most teenagers these days want to fit in. And that precisely brings me to what I want to share with all of you today. Now, how many of you have heard about the term peer pressure? Could I have a raise of hands in the audience? Okay, so that's quite a large majority. Okay, so the Merriam-Webster dictionary actually defines peer pressure as a feeling that one must do the same things as other people of one's age or social group in order to feel liked or respected by them. And quite surprisingly, around 85% of high schoolers face peer pressure. And when we talk about the term peer pressure, we're really focusing on it as an umbrella topic. Maybe alcohol use, substance abuse, bullying, indulging into illegal activities, and so on. However, today I want to throw light on the more subtler ways in which peer pressure arises in us. Maybe even you and I have already faced it before. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say your friends or peers are going to some place to hang out, and you join them as well. Not because you like the place, maybe you don't want to go, or maybe you're just an introvert like me who just has a very low social battery, but you do go. Why? Because you want to fit in. Another example, let's say your friends are wearing the most latest trendy fashion clothes and you wear them as well. Not because you like them, maybe it's not up to your fashion style or taste, and maybe you even feel uncomfortable in them, but you do wear them. Why? Because you want to fit in. I've seen many teenagers and friends who have changed their personality, their hobbies, their likings, and suppressed them just because they think that they wouldn't be accepted as who they are. And the sad reality is that these same teenagers grow up with lower self-confidence, they face mental health issues, and eventually indulge into the other serious activities like I had mentioned before. I can see how the crowd has gone all quiet. Very serious, yes. I know, and you might be thinking, okay, Mehek, but what do we do about this? Well, firstly, it all starts with you. It took me a long time to realize this, but even if the people around you are happy with the version of yourself that you have presented to them, but you aren't, then it makes no difference. Self-acceptance starts with being happy with the way you are already. And by this I don't mean not working on your flaws and bad behavior. No, those are things you should be working on. But rather being content and happy with your hobbies, with your likings, with your personality, and what makes you, you. Secondly, finding like-minded people. Speaking from personal experience, it's always a great idea to have communities, social groups, or maybe people who share the similar interests and hobbies that you have, so that you have outlets in your life to express yourself in the most authentic way possible. I'll give you an example. Recently, I had joined Twitter. I know not a lot of teenagers are on that platform, but it's an amazing place to find out like-minded people, communities, where they have similar interests and hobbies that you have, and in my case, history and economics. And finally, but I think the most important advice, learning how to set healthy boundaries. As a teenager, I agree, it's not easy to know when to say no. And you might be called selfish, you might be even thinking that I might be called selfish. I have personally experienced the fact that I've been called high-headed sometimes. But at the end of the day, communicating your boundaries is extremely important because it allows the other person to know your comforts and exactly what you want. And at the end of the day, you will be a much more happier and fulfilled person. I can say that as well. Now, I hope that from all of what you've listened to me, you take something back home. Maybe ponder about it, maybe implement a few of the advice that I've given you today. But it would be a disservice to myself if I did not leave you all with a history fact. Yes, I know, I won't bore you. However, I hope that you do listen and understand something from this. Now, on the screen, I have a few paintings presented there. Can any of you in the audience maybe take a wild guess on who painted these? Maybe the painting, or maybe the art movement that they were part of. Any guesses? Just like throw out random names, no problem. Anybody in the crowd? I mean, he does belong to the same art movement, but thank you. This is actually one of my most absolute favorite art movements called Impressionism. Now, Impressionism broke every single rule of the French Academy of Fine Arts, which had been a very conservative school that had been dictating the norms and procedures of how art and paintings were to be made since 1648. Now, these few Impressionist painters decided to do something different. Their paintings were very different. They had unblended colors, they were painted out in the open, they had rough brush strokes, and this was completely opposite from what academic paintings were, which were very rigid. They portrayed realistic themes, had moral values, and so on. Now, what do I want you all to learn from this? Well, these few Impressionist painters decided to do something that they were passionate about and break what the rules of norms of society were saying. And that is precisely why people like you and me can still admire their paintings even to this day. And to conclude, despite your personality, despite all those things that you feel people wouldn't like about you, despite all those insecurities that you have, you need to be confident in your own abilities as a human being. Because at the end of the day, all of us fit in, but sometimes unconventionally. Thank you.